Good morning and welcome to a thought for the week. There's been a bit of a pause on it, and my apologies for that. Lots of different reasons that I won't go into here, but it's good to be back. It's good to be able to share some thoughts with you this morning. So let me just read to you from Ephesians chapter 4, just the first couple of verses of that chapter. It says, "Therefore, I urge you to lead a life worthy of the calling which you have received, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace." I saw a quote years ago. Actually, I heard a quote. It was on a radio interview with the person who at the time was the director of the Northumbria community. And she was talking about community and how, and this was the quote, "Community never arrives." And what she meant by that was that you have to keep working at it. You have to keep pursuing it. If you think, no, that's okay, it's all fine, we don't need to carry on working or building this together, that's when the problems start to come. That's when the division starts to come. That's when a lack of vision starts to come. And without that vision, the Bible says people perish. Now, our vision as a church is that we are a church at the center of community, and that we express that community-centered nature of our vision through community with God, community with each other, and community with others. And we were reflecting on this just recently as a group of leaders in the church, because, as I say, you have to keep working, pushing after, seeking after, pressing into that vision, into community, because when we stop doing that, that's when the problems start to come. And that's kind of what Paul is reflecting a little bit here, with humility and gentleness and patience, bear with one another in love, make every effort, not when we feel like it, not with the people that we like, not when it's easy, but make every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. And there's that interesting thing there, isn't it? That we assume that unity of the Spirit, the thing that we talk about, we say, well, we're all Christians, we all follow Jesus, there's that unity there. And that's absolutely true. But that unity needs to be maintained. And it needs to be maintained through our every effort. But what does that look like? It looks like humility, gentleness, respect. It looks like patience. It looks like bearing with one another. The way you speak to each other. That is how we maintain the unity of the Spirit. The way we're patient with one another. That's how we maintain the unity of the Spirit. The way that we bear with one another. And you know what? This hopefully won't have been too much of a shock for you. There are going to be times in church where people irritate you, where they annoy you, where you're not happy with the way that a person has behaved. You know, the church is not magically, in that sense, different from any other human community. But what is different, what I believe should be different, is that here we make every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit through the bonds of peace, through our patience, through bearing with one another, through humility, through realizing, do you know what, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm the pastor of the church. I don't have all the answers, trust me. But none of us do. So we come with that posture of humility to say, you know, we're all seeking after Jesus. We're all seeking to follow Jesus, to say yes to Jesus. And saying yes to Jesus means that we say yes to one another. Now, many years ago, there was a big drama in the church, late 1820s. And it was called the Anarchy. And you're going to read a bit more about this maybe in future magazine articles, or we're going to do some sort of display about it, because it's a fascinating time. But it was a time when they didn't live this out, where they weren't making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit. There was great division, and that division didn't just cause issues in the church, it caused a national scandal, getting all the way to Parliament and ending up in the courts as well. Now, what's interesting is that following that, in 1830, the church wrote a covenant that they all signed, that they were going to walk together in a certain way. And it's beautifully written. We will definitely do something with it. Beautifully written. And at the beginning, it talks about how we're giving ourselves to God. But then it says in the second part of that covenant, having given ourselves to God, we also give ourselves to one another. And that's the wonderful thing about community, isn't it? Is that it's not just, I happen to be sat in a pew next to you once a week, but that I am yours and you are mine. We belong together. We belong to each other. That we are community in our hearts together, and that as community we make every effort. And I know there are times, and I'll be honest with you friends, where I have not made every effort, and I pray for your forgiveness for that, because I haven't always made every effort. But I'm sure many of us can hold our hands up honestly and say the same. So let's commit together moving forward that we will, as a church at the heart of community, make every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace, through our humility, through our gentleness, through our bearing with one another, that we can together make sure that we're walking in the way that Jesus has called us to walk. How can you do that this week? How can you maintain that unity this week? How can you reach out in love and grace and humility to somebody this week? How can you help to grow the church in terms of its heart this week? I leave that to your imagination and pray that you have the courage to step forward as God leads you. God bless you.